Hello, everyone. Welcome to Outpost Unknown's review of Evil Dead Rise. My name is Matthew. Joining me on this review this evening, we have Jeff,
Hey, what's up?
we got Steve,
Hello.
and special guest, star of Dream Thief Studios' first project, Orlock, next month, Jennii.
Hey guys, what's up? It's Jennii. Thanks so much for having me back.
That's a get.
Yeah. So we are going to talk Evil Dead Rise this evening. Now, obviously, Evil Dead is a very beloved franchise with horror fans. I would say that most people consider the original trilogy sort of unassailable. Everybody loves those movies. And then, I guess 10 years ago, we had Fede Alvarez do a remake that was very well received. Of course, we've had the Ash versus Evil Dead television show that was also very well received. And now we have, I guess this is kickstarting a new sort of Evil Dead verse, Evil Dead Rise, which was originally supposed to be direct to HBO Max. And then, from what I gather, the filmmakers and HBO or Warner Brothers, whoever, I guess Discovery now, thought the film looks so good, they decided, well, this actually deserves a theatrical release. So they put it out on theatrical here in April, and we all went to go see it. Steve, you are great at plots. What is
God
just a
damn it.
high level synopsis? Yeah, I don't know. I don't need beat for beat, but just tell
Uh,
me the basic plot of this movie.
we start with a prologue showing Deadites doing Deadite things. Then one day earlier pops up on screen, and we meet Beth, who is a guitar tech. She finds out that she's pregnant. She goes home to get support from her sister, who has uh, three children, and every one in this family has exactly one character trait that typically doesn't really have anything to do with the rest of the movie. Uh, the son Danny finds a book in this cavern that opens up after an earthquake. They're in an apartment building that used to be a bank. Apparently, he goes into this underground cavern, finds the book, reads it. Deadites show up, possesses the mom, and so now it's Auntie Beth trying to protect her three nieces and nephews from their mother, who is now a Deadite. That's, if you want a high level overview, not much more happens
Yeah,
beyond
that's it.
that.
That's
That's
it.
good. Good job.
I mean, it's typical Evil Dead sort of thing, right? There's
Yeah.
not a whole lot of plot that's necessary to this. You just need Deadites to show up, need some gore, some grue, some creepy moments, and then boom, you got yourself an Evil Dead stuff. So, Jennii? What are your thoughts on Evil Dead Rise?
I was super stoked when I first saw the trailer. I got very excited to go see it. I wanted to be truly and just totally scared and immersed in that movie. And then that kind of didn't happen. It wasn't so much with the way it was like filmed or anything. I really loved the special effects, but
Mm-hmm.
it just wasn't scary. And I was really, really hoping to be scared.
Okay,
I'm
fair,
kind of
fair.
curious, Jenny. There's in like when I think of contemporary horror, like what works in theaters now, my mind goes a lot to like the James Wan, Lee Wannell, the Insidious and the Conjuring and the Nun and that type of stuff. If you're familiar with those, do you find those maybe more effectively scary than this?
Yeah,
Okay,
those
yeah, right
those
on.
scare me more and captivate me more. I really liked the Nun. I liked the jump scares. It just really took me out of my real life and, just was so scary that I was just totally into that movie. So I kind of liked that type of scary type feel better.
hmm Yeah, as far as ratcheting up the tension and getting a scare, like setting up a scare and then punching the audience with one, I think all the aesthetic of those movies is sort of doing something that Evil Dead was not.
Jeff, your thoughts on Evil Dead Rise?
Oh, I liked it a lot. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was pretty true to the what we would expect out of an Evil Dead. It wasn't as sort of hardcore as the remake, the 2013 one, but I thought it was still pretty good. Now that I didn't realize it was made for streaming originally, and now that you say that, that kind of makes sense to me. I can kind of see that in the film when I think back on it. My theater going experience wasn't super great. There were a lot of, I don't know, people there who were just kind of not there to specifically see that movie like I was. So it was kind of people talking and jacking around on their phone and stuff, and that kind of diminishes it for me a little bit. But as far as the movie itself, I thought it was pretty good.
Okay, Steve, your thoughts on Evil Dead Rise?
I liked it, but I feel like the more I think about it, the kind of the more faults I find, the more criticisms I have. I will say that I ended up, even though I think the movie is a good movie, it ended up being kind of a letdown because this was like the trailer for this movie was fantastic.
Yeah,
The trailer was the first time in years that a trailer has actually gotten me hyped for a movie. And then I went
Yeah,
to this and I thought it was good, but it never took that next step. There was nothing in it that wowed me. It was just everything was good. Everything was competent. Some things that I ultimately didn't like, where it's like the kind of like there's this the prevailing theme of just like motherhood and parenthood in general, and this is not, I guess, not a criticism of the movie. This is just a part of the movie that missed me. It's like I have no parental instinct whatsoever. Like don't give no fucks about it. But it's just it's so in your face throughout the movie. The mother character Elle is obviously she's a mom, and Auntie Beth is going through her own potential motherhood struggles because she finds out she's pregnant um, right before a deadite attack, and you know, the fetus has a soul. So take that, liberals. Uh, I don't know. It just parts of this didn't work for me. I feel like the movie tried to pretend that it was more than it was because it's just a mama bear story. It's Mama Bear 1 gets possessed, and then replacement Mama Bear steps up to Mama Bear throughout the rest of the movie. And I feel like the movie wanted you to think it was more than that because the opening scene with this family is like everyone gets one scene to present their character trait, and then that trait never comes up again with the exception of Danny. I feel like it was trying to like give some fake depth there that didn't really work for me, but I don't know. I liked it, but I feel like I need to stop analyzing it because I'm only going to find things that lower my opinion about it.
interesting. I didn't have any issues with like the motherhood angle. Jeff, you're the only person on here that has children. Did that sort of angle, was that too in your face in your opinion, or how do you feel about
no,
it focusing on motherhood?
I thought that worked great. I think that you have the ancient primordial evil that are these demons, and they demonstrate that there's no limit to the depravity that they will wreak upon people as they try to kill everybody and drag everybody with them to hell. And then the mother stuff is like a nice rhyme or a reflection in a mirror of that, because a mother's instincts to protect her children, or my instincts to protect my children for that matter, that's also very primal. And so you set up these two sort of primal forces and they're in conflict with one another. And that's something that we haven't, I mean, you can say that like in Army of Darkness, they're sort of fighting for a cause and there's a little more to it. But in the Evil Dead 1 and 2, and then the Evil Dead remake, there's not so much that fighting for something. It's more of this hyperactive struggle to get yourself out alive, and this angle of having to accomplish something beyond just getting yourself out alive I think it worked really well. And if they're going to do some sort of like expanded universe type stuff, because they throw in like, well, there were 3 books and there's this other stuff and this prologue epilogue thing, I think you're going to have to do some stuff like that. It can't just always be carnage in a location and one person squeaks out at the end.
Can we talk about how dumb the prologue is when you think about it?
Yeah, I don't really understand. I think people associate Evil Dead, you're in a cabin, you're out in the woods. So you give the people that. And it looked cool. I mean, the little demon coming up and stuff. But it was weird. I agree with you. That
Yeah,
was kind of like,
so
what?
the prologue is 3 people. I don't know any of these people's names. So it's like
Doesn't
uh
matter.
yeah, Lady 1, Lady 2, and Guy 1 are on a cabin by the lake, and Lady 2 is possessed and ends up maiming Girl 1 and killing Guy 1. And that's when it cuts, and then like the deadite girl like rises out of the water, and the title flashes on the screen, and then it says, one day earlier. And at the end of the movie, they set up how that happens, and it turns out the girl that was possessed in the beginning also happened to live in this condemned apartment building and slept through the night and the Deadites didn't bother her, and she didn't bother the Deadites. But then at the end of the movie, she walks out of her apartment and gets possessed, and then presumably her Deadite self gets in her car and drives to pick up her cousin and her boyfriend to
Hmm.
drive them out to the cabin. At which point, then it goes full Deadite.
Yeah,
I
I don't have any issues with the specific logistics of, oh, well, that woman lived in the apartment building and oh, she was around when the Deadite needed someone to possess. That stuff's fine with me, but as far as just tacking it on at all, it's really just kind of stuck on like a Lego brick. It's just added on.
Yeah. Yeah, Jenny, I wanted to ask you real quick, circling back to the sort of question about motherhood and very female sort of centric film. Did you have any issues with that angle?
If my mom turned into a zombie or a demon, you'd get quite a bit of a reaction out of me, and I didn't feel like those kids really responded to that. They didn't even seem that scared. So I kind of thought that was a little emotionless and strange for like the acting there. Even the sister, she wasn't like scared of her sister turning into this like bloody, broken demon thing. So I thought that was a little strange.
Like you were looking for like a realistic reaction from people if this scenario were to occur. Okay, that's
actually
fair.
kind of found that part of the movie like refreshing. Like I completely agree that these kids did not have realistic emotions towards this at all. But how often do we watch like a zombie movie and dude A's buddy gets bitten by a zombie and like we were just like, no, just kill him. Dude B is
Mhm.
not going to get better. Just how this ends, don't be an idiot. I kind of thought that that was different, and I like that the kids are immediately like, no, there is no fixing this. Mom is a demon now. We must treat her as such. Realistic? Absolutely not. But I feel like that was a change that I think I would like to see more in horror films.
Okay, interesting. My take on this, and it's interesting because I grew up, I think most of us did, grew up on the original Raimi trilogy of films, right? They were very
Mhm. For sure.
influential for me, especially in my own filmmaking career. I always looked up to Sam Raimi and I loved Evil Dead 2, and Army of Darkness. And when the 2013 Fede Alvarez remake came out, I think I caught a little bit of heat from my friend circle because I was like, I don't really like it. I just don't like it. It's really well made. I couldn't at the time point to anything necessarily that I thought was like bad about it. But I just didn't like it. It's like one of those really well made movies. They're like, I can't put my finger on why I don't actually like this. And then I went and saw this, and I think I know why. Because I came out of this movie thinking it was well made. It does what it's trying to do fairly well, but I don't really like it. And as I was like walking home, I was trying to like, parse around in my mind, like, why don't I like these Evil Dead movies? And I think it's because I grew up on campy, fun, over the top, charming Bruce Campbell type Evil Dead stuff. That's what I like. When the Ash versus Evil Dead television show came out, I really love that. Why? It's Bruce Campbell being over the top and ridiculous. It's not like taking Evil Dead and trying to make it this really hardcore, make you sort of squirm and give it edge or something like that. I think I just don't like that in this franchise. I like the over the top goofiness of what the original Evil Dead movies gave us. And I think it's a little unique in horror franchisedom to have something like what Sam Raimi provided for those original movies. Obviously, you get stuff like Peter Jackson's Dead Alive and things of that nature. But in terms of like a franchise that has spanned, what, 30, 40 years at this point in time, I think that's not not really around. And I really love the spirit and the energy and the creativity and everything that Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell and that whole team brought to all those. So I think that these sort of harder edged Evil Dead movies, they just don't affect me at all. I miss that sort of charming, swashbuckling, doofus sort of character, and I like the over the top blood and gore of those original ones. But it's like comic. It's like a comic book, right? It's like a cartoon, Three Stooges esque kind of violence. It's not, let's watch somebody chewing glass, and is that creepy? Like to me, I was like, no, I've seen all this stuff in a million different horror movies. Like, yeah, someone gets a pair of scissors stuffed into their face. I've seen that before. Um, I don't know. It just doesn't affect me as much as those other ones that have the humor in them and have that sort of energy to them that gives me a little something different that I don't generally see in the horror genre. So overall, like for my take on this movie, I think it's a fine movie for what it's trying to do. I mean, I don't think that the Evil Dead franchise lends itself to great storytelling possibilities here. I mean, they're just demons possessing people trying to kill them and swallow their souls and stuff. There's not a whole lot of depth I think you can really do with these movies. I did appreciate, kind of like you said, Jeff, the sort of the motherhood angle of it. I know our friend Rachel thinks that's like low hanging fruit when it comes to writing female characters and stuff like that. But it sort of connected with me in a way. I was like, this is more than, at least more than what we normally see in a movie like this. Or they're trying to expand the Evil Dead stories in at least some way. Is it the most original? No, but I love a million horror movies that aren't original. They're just derivatives of one another. So that didn't really bother me in terms of viewing it. It was just the lack of humor, the lack of sort of campiness, and like the magic that seems to be missing for me in these movies, that made me fall in love with them in the first place. I don't know. Do you guys have any comments on that? Like the harder edge Evil Dead versus the
I
campiness preference at all?
There was the one eyeball gag, which I think was the movie's attempt at humor. Like,
Yeah, that was a callback to
yeah,
Evil
yeah,
Dead
like
2.
that was it. Otherwise, that was
there were a couple
there's
jokes.
not many reasons to laugh in this film.
Matt, you're absolutely correct in your take on the Raimi stuff, especially Evil Dead 1 and 2 are really singular uh, duo. The duo of them are singular creations in that they are, on the one hand, Bruce Campbell's a funny guy, and there's gore gags and there's funny things that happen. But on the other hand, the Deadites are very menacing and even scary, and the cabin's scary, and the swing banging against the wall. All that stuff is scary, and it's done it. We've seen horror comedies, everything from Peter Jackson stuff to Tucker and Dale or whatever. But Evil Dead, Sam Raimi's original ones, are really singular in pulling off the scary, the menacing sinisterness of the creative weird villains, but also being funny and campy, as you say. And I kind of wonder if the franchise, if that vibe of the franchise just is, not that Bruce Campbell's dead, but he's too old to do this. You can't make another one of these with 85-year-old Bruce Campbell in it
Well,
anymore.
he was in like 4 seasons of Ash versus Evil
Yeah,
Dead. I mean,
yeah.
so I mean, he did a lot more of this sort of stuff. I would almost like to see, everyone's like, okay, we're going to reboot, but we're going to make it edgy, we're going to make it hard, we're going to make it scary.
Hmm.
Why can't you reboot Evil Dead, but more in the vein of what the originals were? you
Yeah.
know Funny and goofy and over the top and ridiculous. Again, and that might just be me. I'm not sort of like putting down anyone who wants to see the scary edgy sorts of Evil Dead stuff. Like Jennii, obviously you really wanted to see that. I don't think that's bad. I'm just saying, for me personally, these sort of harder edged Evil Deads that are supposed to be taken more seriously, they just don't land for me.
Hmm.
It's because that's not what I grew up loving. I didn't fall in love with the Evil Dead franchise because of that. But I will say about this one, I think the Alyssa Sutherland, the lady who played the mom, I thought she was fantastic in this. I
She was
thought
awesome.
she
Easily
was
the best
awesome.
part of the movie.
Yeah, she was super creepy. I love the way she acted in it. I did think that the look of the film looked. I mean, I thought it looked cool. Typically like dark and grimy and stuff. Like, it had all the elements there of what I would call good. These are good things. It just didn't land for me, and I'm just like, eh.
I still didn't get. I appreciate that the movie changed the setting because we've seen multiple Evil Dead set in a cabin now, and I'm a little disappointed that if the prologue slash epilogue is to be believed, that it might be going back in that direction. But I was really excited because I think even if you have a story that's been told a million times before, like just changing the setting can reinvigorate it a little bit. And so I was really hyped to see what they do with Deadites in an apartment building. but then they set it up so that this building has been condemned. There's only actually like 4 people left alive or left living in it, and so it functionally wasn't all that different from the previous ones. I want to see what happens when the Deadites are in a building with 100 tenants in it. Though apparently, if you're on a low enough floor, they just leave you alone, which is how we arrived at the prologue.
You
I
should
just
check out a movie called Demons 2
yeah
by Lamberto Bava. You don't need to have seen Demons 1. Yeah. But it's it's
yeah.
it's sort of like this, and it's sort of this, I don't know, similar to this. Could be a
I
companion piece.
I actually was thinking of that movie when I was
I
watching
like
it.
that
Just
one a lot. I love
yeah.
the ending of that one.
Yeah, and because when I was thinking, I was like, I've seen all of this kind of stuff before. That's the
Hmm.
movie that my mind went back to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you, Steve. I don't think they did a whole lot with that sort of apartment setting. I thought they were just going to kind of set it up where, like, why when she's infected with a deadite or whatever, the deadite goes into her at the very end. Why would that deadite not just want to take out all of New York City? Why drive to a cabin to get just a couple friends? I was like, well, if you're gonna expand this, open up this world, like make it deadites have completely overrun New York City,
That's
and
what I want to see. That's
yeah,
what I want.
that'd be kind of cool. I'd be interested in seeing that, but bring back some humor and charm to it. So final thoughts. I'll toss it to you first, Jenny. Do you have any final thoughts? How would you rate Evil Dead Rises, like on a letter scale?
For a letter grade for Evil Dead Rise, I'm going to go with a C. I still really liked the blood scene and the elevator scene. So many spoilers here, but yeah, just some of the acting with the way the kids were with their mom and the sister with her sister just didn't really quite hook me there.
Fair enough. Steve, your final thoughts and letter grade on Evil Dead Rise?
Yeah, it's high C, low B. It's good, but it didn't live up to my expectations. I think I'm just going to put it out of my head for a couple months. Probably watch it again when it hits streaming with like adjusted expectations and see if that changes my opinion or not. It's good. Didn't love it. Didn't hate it.
Okay. Jeff?
Uh, well, I liked it. I'm interested at some point in the future, maybe to continue the motherhood thing. It brings to mind. It wasn't with any of you guys, but somewhere in the past there was a movie somewhat recently that I was speaking with someone about, and they had a very similar kind of complaint, not a complaint, but like a criticism of the movie. The movie was a Chloe Moritz movie called Shadow in the Cloud, which I liked a lot. I think it's a really cool movie. I'd highly recommend it to anyone. My wife loved it too. Um, Very fun movie that you can watch on like a date night. But the premise is she's this like airplane pilot, and there's a gremlin on the plane, but ultimately she's trying to protect her baby. And I remember speaking with someone who was like really critical of the film, being like, well, of course it's because she's a mom and she's got the baby. And I was like, I find that really interesting that that's something that sticks in certain in some craws out there. But as far as Evil Dead goes, solid B. I thought it was fun. I'd recommend it. Although I will say I don't think you need to see this at the theater. You can catch this on streaming, and it'll be just fine to watch in your house where it's quiet and people aren't messing around on their phones and chatting it up.
Okay. Um, I'll give this a C minus. Again, I think most of it was just good, but it didn't land for me. I don't think it's a terrible movie by any means. I'd recommend people check it out. Just didn't land for me. I have to get slightly below average for me. But what do you guys think? Leave a comment down below. Are we way off base on Evil Dead Rise? Is it the next great horror film and we just didn't get it, went over our heads? Or are you more in line with us? Leave a comment and we'll be back again in the future with another review here on Outpost Unknown.